حي على الفلاح.
Basically, my story, it's very similar to a lot of kids who grew up in America, went to public school. In high school, basically, I started a band. It's a punk rock band, like punk rock music.
You were the lead singer.
I don't know if you'd call it singing, but yeah, I did lead vocals. My band was, was pretty political, so I kind of, in the back of my mind, I felt like I was doing something good, because it was political and I spoke about real issues and stuff like that, as opposed to like pop music and stuff like that. For me, it was like, I'm speaking about political issues, people who are oppressed and stuff like that, so I felt like I'm doing something good. It lasted throughout high school. When I went to college, that's when things began to change for me. I had a couple experiences in my life. People started asking me, my brother started asking me about life, and it's the first time I actually began to question what my life was about. So the thing with me was I would write lyrics for the band. I thought of myself as somebody who was spiritual to begin with. I try to think deeper because, if you're a poet or a lyricist, you tend to think deeply about stuff. So even when writing lyrics and stuff like that, I tried to stay away from the cliches and, write about real issues. So I kind of had that spiritual side, but I never took it all the way where I actually asked myself, like, what's the purpose of my life? And it's only when people started to ask me and question me, there's Muslims making da'wah to me. I was brought up as a Muslim. I was in a Muslim household, but the way my parents were, they never really forced religion upon us. The first person to start practicing Islam was actually my brother. So that's how it was for me. I just didn't really even think about it. It wasn't like, I didn't want to be Muslim or anything like that. I didn't think about it. I didn't care. Just too busy in trying to get the most out of this life. And that's what really caught me, is when people started asking me, or my brother actually, and he'd ask me these deep questions that I really needed to think about. What's going to happen after you die? Right? And the average person doesn't think about death. Don't talk about death, that's too morbid. Like, I don't want to think about that stuff, I just want to enjoy life and have fun. And the problem was, at that point, I did believe that this life did contain everything. Right? And it's only when I came to the realization that this life does not contain anything. And that for me happened at a particular moment. It happened at a time that I went to a concert. And something happened there. I remember till this day, there was floor seating and there was like balcony seating in the back. So people on the balcony, they could look down on the crowd and the band. And I was sitting on the floor seating, the ground seating, and the band came on and the band started playing. Everybody was having fun, everybody's having a good time. And I just paused for a moment and I have this feeling, and I don't want to say it's an outer body experience, right? I just want to say that I could feel like, it's almost like I could look down upon what's happening. I could look down on the situation. So it's almost like I was sitting up on the balcony. I'm sitting on the balcony and I look down and I see myself, I see everyone there, everyone just like dancing, rocking out to the music. And I'm like, is this it? Like, is this my life? Mm-hmm. Like, is that the purpose of my life, is just to try to maximize my fun? And that really affected me to the point where my friend sitting next to me, she says to me, she says to me, she noticed, she said, is everything okay? Like, she saw, the color of my face changed, yes. Like, obviously it affected me. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, listen, I gotta go. Like, I can't be here right now. Like, I know this is not good for me. I left, got in my car, and I drove that night. Remember, I drove for hours just thinking about life. And one of the things I asked myself was, where am I headed? So I plotted out my life and I said, let's say everything in my life goes as planned, which never happens anyway, right? Like, you don't always get what you want, but I said, let's say best case scenario, I get what I want. My band, we get a record deal, which, bands don't really get record deals. So I was like, my band gets a record deal, we get signed, we tour, become rich and famous, mm-hmm. Right? I spend my life doing what I like doing music, playing music. And then I'm like, I fast forward, I'm like, okay, let me fast forward a couple years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Then I'm like, then what? Right? And I'm like, okay, now I'm sitting on my deathbed. Then what? What did I just spend my life doing? Right? There's gotta be more to life than this fun. I was pretty mature for my age. Like I said, I did write and I wrote poetry. I wrote lyrics for the band. Yeah. So I did think about these type of things. So at that time, I thought to myself, I said, even this life, even the life that I'm chasing, I know it's not perfect, because I've been to concerts, I've been to parties, I've had the fun that you can have, and it wasn't fulfilling. So I was like, if I spend my whole life doing this, it's not going to all of a sudden become fulfilling. So that I look back at my life and I'm like, is that a wasted life? And it seemed like a wasted life. And I said, you know what? I need to figure out what my life is really about, because it's definitely not this. It's definitely not chasing this life and just trying to have fun. That can't be the purpose of my life. And that's where I started my journey.
Now the journey begins.
Yeah, the journey began at that time. The
serious journey.
That's when I became serious. That's when I was like, you know what? I know happiness does not lie in chasing the dunya. That much I had figured out at that point.
So what happens from here?
From there, I began looking at religions and spirituality. And you know, one of the things about, as a young person, you tend to rebel against those things that are around you. So I rebelled against the religion of my family, which is Islam. So I'm like, obviously that can't be the truth. So that's the last place I looked for the truth. I looked into, not Hinduism, but Buddhism, Christianity. I had a Jewish friend. I talked to him. For a moment there, I was like, maybe you just have to be spiritual, right? And that didn't make sense. And I remember I would always have these questions, right? Because I was like, if I'm going to change my life, it has to be logical, it has to make sense, and I have to be completely comfortable with it. And I remember talking to like my Christian friends and talking to my Jewish friends, talking to Buddhists, even talking to people who are just like, listen, you just got to be a good person, it doesn't matter, you know, just be good. And I realized that I always had issues, like I always had questions that they couldn't answer. There are questions like, when it comes to Christianity, for example, the whole Trinity business and all that, like it never made sense to me. And coming from the outside, it really didn't make sense to me. Like I just wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
And nothing convinced me until I finally went to my brother. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, tell me about Islam. Let's do this. I have questions for you. Let's see if you can answer them.
What were some of these questions?
Some of these questions were, why do I have to worship God to make it to paradise? Right? Things like that. Questions of predestination, for example. Like if God has decided everything ahead of time, if God knows what's going to happen, then what's the point of me doing anything? If it's already, questions like that, which I didn't know back then, but now I know there's clear answers in Islam. At that point, when those questions were answered for me, there came a point where I was like, I don't have any more questions. So there came a point in my life at that point where I said to myself, I remember clearly I said to myself, if I do not become Muslim right now, it's because I'm rejecting the truth. Because I know it to be true and my heart is comfortable with it. Because that's the thing about Tawheed, about worshiping Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, is that your heart is comfortable with that concept, because that's part of our fitrah, that's part of our nature, is to accept Tawheed. So at that moment, I realized that my heart accepts this, it's pure. And if I still don't do it, it's because I'm rejecting the truth. And at that point it was a matter of, it's like, to people outside it seemed like a single day that I changed. It wasn't a single day, but it was a single day that I made that decision to say, you know what, I think it's time to submit. I think nothing will fill that void except submitting to the one who created you.
That's the void you had?
Yeah, that's the void I had.
Is it still there?
Alhamdulillah, that void is not there anymore.
It's not there.
Alhamdulillah. One of the things that I often talk about is being real and opening your eyes and thinking about the big questions. And that's one of the issues, I think, with being young, we tend to ignore the big questions, right? We don't want to think about death. We don't want to think about the fact that this may be our last moment to live. I may not make it home today. This may be my last interview, right? This may be your last interview. That's the reality of life. Even a non-Muslim won't deny the fact that he doesn't know when he's going to die. Even an atheist, somebody who rejects God, doesn't deny that fact. Those are big questions. And our Islam, the Prophet ﷺ, encouraged us to think about those big questions. He said, increase in remembering the destroyer of desires, death. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the big question. So if we think about those things, it'll bring us back to reality. Right? I don't think young kids deny the fact that we're going to die. They just don't think about it. And that's what did it for me.
How can people be sure? How could they know that this way of life that we're talking about, Islam, submission to the will of God, is indeed from the Creator, is not man-made?
Listen, the thing about Islam is, alhamdulillah, we don't have to do a lot of work, right? Tawheed is such a simple concept. Worshipping the one who created you and gave you life, it can take your life away.
Beautiful.
Simple as that. because He is the one who created us. He gave us life. He gives us sustenance. He provides for us. He's in charge of all affairs. He is the only one who deserves our worship and our devotion. That is Tawheed right there. It's so simple.
Nothing in create, not Jesus,
Exactly.
not Muhammad. I mean, not
Of course.
praying to them.
Of
They
course.
were messengers of God.
Of course. And that's one thing, subhanAllah. I remember now when thinking about Christianity and Islam and those things, I was like, my fitrah told me, I said, why Jesus? Like, why do I have to go through somebody to get to God? Right? If God cares, if He's the one who created me, why do I need people? Why do I need intercessors? Right? And it's unfortunate that in this day and age we have Muslims that go to intercessors. Right?
Yeah.
When we have, alhamdulillah, we have a pure religion.
No intercessors.
No intercessors.
No middleman, no secretary.
Exactly.
Only God.
Only Allah Azza wa Jalla. And this is a power that a Muslim has to have a connection with their Lord. Right? Alhamdulillah, a Muslim knows this. And this is why when we go into sajda, we know we're close to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and we call out sincerely to Allah Azza wa Jalla.
Can we say that's the start? Right now, you're at home watching this,
Yeah.
and you know there's a voice. Start asking the Creator alone for guidance.
Exactly. That's one of the things I did actually. I sincerely, I said, God, if you're out there, guide me.
Guide me.
Just guide me. And it wasn't a matter of anything. I just purely wanted to, I had that voice, I was like, just show me what the truth is. And if you put down those barriers, right? I don't care what your religion is, if you're a Jew or Christian, atheist, if you're a Muslim who doesn't practice, you put down all your preconceived notions, all your barriers, you put them down, and you sincerely make dua to Allah, to God, and say, oh God, guide me to the truth. Allah will never leave you
He'll
hanging.
facilitate a way.
He will make a way.
Simple as that.